Caitlin Clark is stunned. Fans are furious and coach Stephanie White. She's either playing chess or lighting the whole board on fire because when you bend Chloe Bibby, a proven score team energy spark plug and one the only players with consistently delivered off the bench, you're not just making a tactical decision, you're throwing gasoline on an already unstable fire. Let's rewind. If you're here for the real story and not to filter version, subscribe, and if you're sticking around for the next meltdown, you better definitely subscribe. Chloe Bibby isn't some fringe rotation player. She's a girl can come in cold and still drop 8 points in 2 minutes. She's a kind of player coaches dream of, tough, confidence, and productive without demanding a starting role. She knows or lane, and she's owned it. But now that lane's been blocked, and the reason, according to Coach White, defensive matchups, please that excuse land with third heard across every Fever fan forum. Because here's what defensive matchups really sounds like: the people watching this team implode game after game. I don't want to do. Admit I'm playing favorites. I'm married to a defensive system that isn't working. I'd rather lose my weight and win another harsh maybe. But this team is clinging to playoff hopes, and every decision now is weight. And when you bend to spark like Bibby while your team scores 68 points in a must-win game, that weight turns into anger. Legitimately, the fans aren't by an excuse, the analysts are by an excuse, and honestly the players might not be either, because you can feel the shift. There's tension now. Body language on a court is tight. Even Caitlin Clark, a professional, has started showing signs of visible frustration. She's putting up stats, she's logging heavy minutes, but the rotations around or makes 0 sense. Shooters bench defenders out of position, and let's naive and talk about how 3 of her best fast break passes went to players who follow them like they were handling soap. You can see in her eyes she's thinking what we've been doing here, because Caitlin Clark didn't come to the WNBA to be a development project. She came to compete, and right now it looks like the Indiana Fever or barely try to keep up. And here's where things get ugly. The whispers have started, the ones that question whether Coach Y's decisions are really about basketball, whether there's a deeper issue behind Chloe Bibby's inching, whether this is less about matchups and more about control. Because when a coach consistently sideline productive players, even when the team's struggling, it stops look like strategy and starts looking like ego. And that's the word swirling around now, ego, that Stephanie White is so determined to be seen as a system coach. So attached their vision of what this team should be, that she's willing to let actual talent right on the bench. And let's not forget, this is an isolated incident. This is a pattern. We've seen other bizarre rotations, players yanked after single mistake, scores banned from the team is down 10 minutes go, and offenders who can't shoot while the offense crumbles. It's like she's building a puzzle pieces from 5 different boxes, and Caitlin Clark is stuck in the middle of it. She was supposed to be the centerpiece of a new era for Indiana. She's at the eyes, the fans, the endorsements, the momentum, but instead being lifted, she's being wagged down by coaching. It doesn't seem understand how to use her. Do you run pick and roll for rarely? Do you stagger minutes so she's on flow as shooters not consistently? Do you get time off the ball so she's not exhausted running the off and 40 minutes a night? Absolutely not. It's like they're daring her to carry the team until she breaks, and now the one player who could relieve them that pressure, Chloe Bibby, has been benched with no real explanation. If you're a fan, you're pulling your hair out. If you're Caitlin Clark, you're wondering what comes next. And if you're Chloe Bibby, you're sitting on the bench watching team each trip over themselves in the fourth quarter while you hold a clipboard and a poker face. But let's call what is this a sabotage, whether conscious or not. Coach White is sabotage and his team's best shot at success with these questionable choices: the benching, the inconsistent lineups, the refusal to let players like Bibby cook, and a deeper question no one to say out loud: is he sabotaging Caitlin Clark's rise on purpose? Because the timing of everything is just too strange. The season starts with Clark being hyped as the future of the league. She delivers big numbers, big crowds, a cultural But suddenly she's struggling with rotations, getting hit with screens, no protection, no spacing, cause and contact, and coach still preaching defensive integrity while the scoreboard bleeds. If this were any other rookie, maybe you chalk it up the growing pains, but Clark Key. I'm in ready. She didn't need babying, she needed structure. Instead, she got experiments, guesswork, chaos, and now Chloe Bibby. Someone who could be part solution is being kept out of a game like she's a liability, instead a weapon. Fans know, they see it, they're not stupid, they watched enough hoops to know when a coach is coaching to prove something, not coaching to win. And what Stephanie White seems desperate to prove is that her way is the only way, even if that means losing games, even if that means muttering the team's energy, even if that means watching Caitlin Clark slowly turn into a solo act with no rhythm section. Is not just risky, it's irresponsible. Because this isn't just about one season, this is about a young core, a once in a generation player, a franchise tried to claw way back into relevance after years of mediocrity, and instead of seizing a moment, White seems more interested in making sure the spotlight stays on our system than letting the player shine, which leaves us here, baby on the bench, Clark running on fumes, the fans booing substitutions, and a fever circling the playoff drain. Whereas going on in that locker room, it's not about chemistry, it's about country, role, and until someone steps in front office leadership, someone, and reminds Stephanie White that this isn't about ego, this is about wins, the fever can keep melting down. And honestly, we wouldn't blame Caitlin Clark one bit if she started asking, is really where I'm supposed to grow, or is this where they want contain me? When Chloe Bibby got benched, most fans assumed it was a temporary shakeup, maybe a matchup thing, maybe she tweaked something in practice. Wrong. Game after game, nothing changed. She stayed stable to bench while the team hemorrhaged offense. And let's not forget, this is this same baby who can check into a cold game, had a quick three and draw charge, and the next possession she's gritty, she's scrappy, and most of all she delivers. You don't sideline a player like that unless you have a very good reason. But what was the reason? Defensive rotations, according to Coach White. No, seriously, that's the line they're rolling with, as a baby's present and floor is somehow more of a liability than half the team jogging back in transition like they're waiting for an over. Meanwhile, fans are sitting at home watching this disaster unfold and asking one obvious question: what game is Stephanie White coach's king? Because it's not the one we're watching every week. It's the same story. Caitlin Clark gets double-teamed, gets swung to the wing, and instead of someone like Bibby ready to catch and shoot, it's someone who hesitates, pump fakes, and bricks a contest in mid-range. That's coaching malpractice. You go on the best passer the game and you're surrounding her with line of choices that makes zero sense. Where's the floor spacing? Where's the rhythm? Where the urgency is? Like White is coaching this team like it's her person chessboard, and the players are just pawns in her grand master plan, even if that plan is clearly losing games. Let's be blunt. The Indiana Fever aren't short on talent, they're short on leadership. And no, not from Caitlin Clark. She's doing everything you could ask. She's showing up, she's handling the media circus, she's dishing out 8+ assists a game while getting thrown to the hardwood every other possession. But you can feel the wear, the await, the disappointment, because no matter how hard she plays, the rotations don't help her, the schemes don't empower, and a person calling the shots seems more interested in proving her own philosophy than actually adjusting the win. And when Bibby spoke through her absence, that silence was deafening. She didn't blur as the coach on social media, she didn't post some cryptic story, she just sat there fully healthy game after game watching her team struggle, while she collected does on the sidelines. That says everything. When your veterans don't even bother stirring the pot, it means they've already read the writing on the wall. This coach doesn't want me here, and let's be honest, this isn't the first time White rotations have raised eyebrows. This is the same coach whose poor players mid-hot streak, who's called timeout at the worst possible times, who's insisted on double big lineups that tank the offense, and when asked about it, she always falls back on same phrase: we're focused on our defensive identity. Okay, But what identity? Because a defensive identity means scoring 64 points while giving up wide open threes. Then congratulations, you build team that hard to watch and still loses. Let's be real, you don't bench baby to make it offensive point. Bench baby when you're trying to send a message, and that message, it's not to her, is to everyone else on that roster. Don't challenge me, don't question the system, fall in line. You can almost see the shift on the court, players hesitating, more or less fluidity, less joy. Caitlin not celebrating by. It's the way she used to. Teammates are rallying together after big plays. It feels cold, robotic, tense. Because everyone knows the game within the game is happening behind the scenes. And it's ugly. And this isn't just about one season anymore. This is about a franchise, or was handed a golden ticket. Caitlin Clark, the most hyped rookie in WNBA history, and instead of building a dynasty around her, they're burying under bad coaching and ego-driven decisions. Fans aren't blind, they're tuned in, and when they watch baby bench while Clark get clobbered, no help, and the offense goes ice cold, they're not blaming the players, they're blaming Stephanie White. And here's where it gets scarier. With this keeps happening, what a baby never sees consistent minutes again. What if Caitlin starts pull back emotionally, mentally, even physically, because a system she's in doesn't value her leadership? Would have. This is how stars burn out. Because when a coach starts coaching against her own team, whether they realize it or not, the damage doesn't show up in a win-loss column. It shows up in a culture, the locker room, the relationships. And once those fracture, it's over. This team was supposed to be the WNBA, a Cinderella story. Caitlin to rival the Fever's play, overturn young talent blooming into something special. Instead, it's feel like a cautionary tale about what happens when a code forget to. The stars are actually playing for now, for the system now, for the playbook, for each other, and for the fans. And right now, neither group is happy. The front office may not want to admit it, but if this continues, it's not just maybe they'll lose the fans, the momentum, maybe even the trust, their own locker room. So the question becomes, how long does Stephanie White get before this all blows up? Because unless something shifts, and fast, this team's gonna to miss the playoffs, a generational rookie year, and alien a key players in the process. And if that happens, baby's benching won't be remembered as a one-off bad call. It'll be remembered as the moment everything started unravel. So what to going to be, Indiana? Are you ready to win, or you ready to explain away another season of underachievement while your star sits silent and your fans grow louder? Because right now the message from Coach White is clear: my way or the bench. And based on what we're seeing on a court, that way doesn't lead to a championship. It leads to the exit. Now here's where it gets even, because once you start peeling back the layers of this whole baby benching situation, you realize this isn't just about one rotation decision. It's about trust, it's about momentum, and it's about a coach who seems more interested in being right than being effective. Because if we're being honest, Chloe Bibby isn't some flash in the pan player who had one lucky night and fans are overreacting about. No, she's been consistently productive. She gives you scoring, hustle, and energy, exactly the kind of depth the playoff team needs down the stretch. So, and Stephanie White benches, or with zero explanation beyond vague defensive match of rhetoric. Fans don't get angry, they get suspicious, because here's what they've seen: when baby's on the floor, the orphans actually move, spacing improve, the pace picks up. You see Caitlin Clark getting clean looks, you see off-ball movement, the team breathes. But without her, it's a slog, a half-court mud puddle with clock running of double screens. Just find a sliver daylight. But somehow Y doesn't see that, or worse, she does, and she's ignoring it. Why? Let's talk about the coaching ego problem. On that, no one in the organization seems willing to address, because that might be the biggest opponent Caitlin Clark's facing right now. And no, it's not Aya Wilson or I Go Gumbo. It's her own coach. Stephanie White came into this job with her own vision, her own system, her own voice, and sure, that's fair, every coach does. But when you're gifted a once-in-a-generation rookie like Clark, you don't double down on your system, you adapt, you build around her, you meet the moment. Instead, White stuck try and make Caitlin Clark fit into a team that should be adjusting around her strength. You got Clark playing 38 plus minutes per game, initiating everything, handling traps, taking hits, and somehow still bring up near triple doubles. And your ideas to TD flexibility is the bench your best bin scorer is delusional, and fans, they know it. They're watching from home, seeing Baby's smiling face stuck it in the back. And while he often collapses in real time, are on Twitter, they're on Reddit, they're in the arena chanting for Clark, while wondering why no one's opener. It's getting to the point where you can feel the tension on the floor, every misrotation, every offensive breakdown, every confuse glance from Clark when a teammate cut through wrong direction, and on the sideline, White, arms crossed, stoic, still clinging to her principles. Let's be real, this is coaching, this is a power trip. And the danger of that, it alienates your locker room, because it's not just Baby who feel the sting. You think the other players don't notice, you think they're not watching how someone like Baby, who shows up, produces, and doesn't cause problems, gets iced alpha for no clear reason. It sends a message, and is the wrong one. It says performance doesn't matter. It says buy and doesn't guarantee minutes. It says personal agendas trump team chemistry, and for a team as young and promising as a fever that poisoned, because Caitlin Clark might be the headliner, but she can't do it alone. She needs secondary scorers. She needs shooters who keep the defense honest. She needs a rotation she can trust right now. She's got a carousel of inconsistency. One game, it's Kelsey Mitchell. One game as boss. In one game, it's nobody, and the one steady scoring punch of the bench sitting in warm-ups. And let's not forget the emotional toll this takes on Baby herself. She's not just sitting out games, she's sitting out opportunities in the WNBA, where roster spots are tight and career windows are short. Every game matters, every moment on of floor is a resume, and now thanks to a coach won't budge, she's losing that visibility, that momentum, that chance. So you can't blame fans or being furious. You can't blame them for wondering if there's something deeper going on behind the scenes. Is a personality clash? Is a favoritism? Is it a quiet message being said about playing the right way? Whatever it is, it's not working, and here's the harsh reality. You don't get rookie like Caitlin Clark twice. You don't get that kind of cultural wave, that kind of media pool, that kind of potential to completely reshape your franchise's projectors. And if the Fever let his window close because of stubborn coaching too, visions, that's not just poor leadership, that's organizational malpractice. So now we're watching real time as Caitlin Clark plays to double teams and exhaustion, while teammates shovel in and out of the lineup like it's preseason. Meanwhile, Baby sit on the bench, high-firing, cheering, staying positive, because that's who she is. But don't mistake or silent for comfort, she sees it. And when players like her finally speak out, because let's be honest, the moment's coming, it won't just be about this one benching, it'll be about everything: the system, the strategy, the refusal to adapt. And then there's a looming question everyone's too afraid to ask: what if Caitlin Clark leave? Maybe not this year, maybe not next, but as she spends 2 or 3 seasons trapped in a cycle of mismanagement, poorly built rosters, and rigid coaching, if she's constantly forced to carry 95% load while players who could help or a bench out of spite events, even the most loyal star start looking elsewhere, overseas, team trade, expansion opportunity, because Caitlin is a competitor. But she's also smart. She knows how sure players' prime is. She's not always hers, and a system that actively working against her. And let's be honest, as the WNBA needs Caitlin Clark a lot more than Caitlin Clark needs a WNBA. So the pressure is on not just for Stephanie White, but for the entire Fever and office. They need to get control of the narrative now. They need to make it clear that they're building around Clark, not stifling her. That every to say isn't going forward, is about winning, not proving a point. And maybe that means having a hard conversation with Stephanie White. Maybe that means demanding accountability for the Baby benching. Maybe that means reminding her that this team isn't about her. It's about maximizing the window was open. It's about nurturing your star hours, not burn them out. It's about choosing production over pride. Because right now the Fever aren't just losing games, they're losing trust from fans, from players, from the future they said they were building. And unless something changes, unless they start putting town on the corn, goes on the shelf, then his entire season and maybe even a Caitlin Clark era in Indiana.